KTern.AI is a DXaaS or digital transformation as a service automation platform tailor-made for the SAP community. So it is a cognitive digital workplace that drives digital transformations across each phase of the digital transformation journey. So here's what will be covered today. We'll be starting off with an introduction on KTern.AI, followed by an overview of SAP digital transformations as a service. The main topic for today will be a hands-on tour on how you can optimize your SAP digital transformations operations with our platform KTern. Since this is the last day of our workshop, we'll also be giving out the certificates of excellence to all the attendees, and we will also be giving away the DXaaS workshop kit. Like I had mentioned earlier, this is the final day of a 3-day workshop series that focuses on embracing automation-driven productivity for SAP partners. For day 1, we covered on how we can plan your SAP transformations. Yesterday, we covered on how you can orchestrate your transformations. And today, we're going to be covering on how you can optimize your SAP operations. So here's what we'll be learning today. We'll be showing you how we are going to simplify the lives of SAP partners and customers with digital automation, how you can position your service along with our platform as a DXaaS package and offer it to your customers. And of course, you'll also be receiving the digital transformation kit, the free giveaway that I mentioned earlier, that is going to help you achieve SAP delivery excellence. So moving on, let me introduce the speakers for today. We've got Bigness, the head of product growth at KTern.AI with us. So he drives the growth operations and corporate development. His thought leadership on SAP-led digital transformation as a service has a global influence and a huge number of following the SAP ecosystem. So he strongly believes that people and technology are his driving force for being out there to contribute in the SaaS world. We've also got Ratna. He's a digital transformation expert who has over 25 years of digital transformation expertise with over 15 years of experience in the field of SAP. He has been a part of 2 successful startups in the US. He's also the co-founder and director of Car Technologies, a pure-play SAP services company with locations across the world, including the Middle East, Europe, and the Americas. Currently, he's the chief product officer and the director at KTern, where he's leading a young team with a mission to inspire and democratize SAP digital transformation as a service. So on that note, I would like to hand the session over to him. Over to you, Ratna.
All right, thank you very much, Jacob. Am I audible?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who has joined this SAP DXaaS workshop, which we are exclusively doing it for a selected set of partners in terms of ensuring that we are empowering them with our platform, also giving a hands-on experience in terms of usage of the platform itself, so that you are able to be successful with the SAP customers that you are working with. So the idea is to ensure that the digital transformation that you do, anything on the SAP, you're able to utilize our platform in a better way. And the last 2 days, if you have been attending, we spoke about the how we go about planning the transformation. Day 2, we spoke about orchestrating the complete transformation, and today we'll talk about how we can optimize it during a run mode, because DXaaS itself is not an event. Digital transformation is just not an event. It's a continuous process. It's not something new. It's been there for a long time, but had different terminology being used. But the idea is to give it shape in terms of the platform that we have, where it's more integrity-led, meaning it works with your SAP, whatever version it might be, 4B, 4C, ECC, it doesn't matter. But the idea is to have the platform help you in terms of transforming, or you can use it for the existing ECC itself. There are quite a lot of use cases that we could imagine in terms of how we can deliver value for our customers using the platform. As Jacob said, the idea is to inspire and democratize, and we really mean it in the sense that we want to ensure that SAP is not seen as a huge thing or a complex thing. We want to really break it into pieces using our platform and ensure that the partners are able to do the transformation better for the customers. Right. So there are 5 streams. I'm sure we spoke about it in the last 2 days, and today we are going to focus on digital minds, which is during the optimize mode. Again, we are an SAP Spotlight partner, which means we are a selected few certified by SAP themselves to use it at the customer place. And there's quite a lot of support that we get from SAP and we deliver it with the SAP BOM as well in terms of the license sale. We are listed in G2, which is a peer platform in terms of review. We also support the partners for getting a qualified partner package solution. So we've supported quite a lot of partners globally, including Middle East, India, and few other partners to drive their transformation for their customers. And we are also available as part of the SAP store. Take a look at it. And the overall idea of the platform itself is it's completely driven by the data. Of course, we still need the set of consultants to drive it, but the idea is to have the platform understand what's there in your existing ECC and give visualization so that the customers will be able to plan their move in a better way. We also have our own HANApedia, which is a knowledge base, which helps in terms of ensuring that the prescriptive way of doing things, and that's the intelligence that we have built, and it's completely native to SAP and non-invasive in terms of the application itself. Right. So again, if you take a 30,000 feet view of what's happening and then drill it down to the final T code level, we are ensuring that we are able to take care of the SAP partners, the system integrators, and the customers. So the complete SAP ecosystem can collaborate and work on this platform, and we have our own digital bots that could help you across the 5 streams that we have, which is maps, projects, process, labs, and minds. We did cover about the maps, projects, process, and labs in the last 2 days. Today, my colleague VB would be driving a live demo on the digital minds, and it's a completely digital workplace where you can have remote teams who could collaborate and work on a transformation and make it smoother in terms of how you do the transformation from an existing world to the new digitally transformed intelligent enterprise. And then it's, as I mentioned, it's not a one-time event, it's a continuous process, and you need to have the cognitive ability to understand how your system performs and recommend optimizations in terms of doing it in the run mode. And it's integrated with all the SAP products that you see on the slide, and also third-party applications like UiPath, Jira, Microsoft, Salesforce, Automation Anywhere, and it also has the recommendation that comes from Activate and the GSI, all put together in one platform. So you got everything. So we've got like 17 industrial maps that could fit into any of the industries that you have, or LOBs if you want. That's all quite prescriptive in terms of how we want to drive your digital transformation. Again, we spoke about this in the last 2 days, but just to refresh, this is the methodology in terms of how you want to drive your digital transformation under one cognitive digital workspace. Today, we are going to focus more on digital minds in terms of how we could optimize once you have moved or your existing ECC as well, you could drive it with the digital minds. And that's what we're going to talk today. With that, I will hand it over to Bigness, who's my colleague, who will run with the addition of these slides and the demo part of it. Over to you, Bigness.
Thank you so much, Ratna. And hello all. Thanks for joining the session. And let me get into the presentation mode so that I can get started. Now, as Ratna mentioned, this particular day is going to be about how you can optimize your SAP operations of your customer and also your application management services, which you run as part of your delivery centers. Now, if we could typically imagine an enterprise ops, be it an S/4HANA system which just went live, or even a current ECC system, there's something which is always a constant, and I would call them business releases and change. A change in an SAP environment is a constant, and there's no point changing that because there is always consistent requests from the business in terms of feature requests, in terms of bug fixes, in terms of form fixes, and in terms of reporting. It just goes on and on. So it is important for organizations to stay agile in terms of their digital transformation journey because, like Ratna mentioned, digital transformation is continuous and it is not a one-time activity. So for an enterprise to stay agile and to stay digitally transformed and be resilient to changing market conditions, it depends upon its ability to adapt to change and to augment how much of change it can withstand in terms of all these transport requests or business releases that happen. Now, if you imagine a traditional enterprise landscape, you will have certain planning and designing activities followed by some development activities. There might be a bit of testing, and then you've got the release. But the problem with release is that it affects and it has a potential to disrupt your enterprise landscape, both in a positive way and also in a negative way. When it comes to people, you've got people struggling with or adapting to changes which SAP has or what has been introduced as part of a recent release, because there might be changes in terms of their landscape or in terms of their application or transactions which they've been using. So they might find it hard to adapt to the changes. That's one part. And processes are more like a bloodline when it comes to enterprises. And we don't want any of the critical business processes or customizations breaking because of movement of certain transport requests as part of a business release. So it is important that the processes play a key role in terms of maintaining the coherency of the production system. So there is always a risk of breaking down a critical business process as and when you make the release. And that is a nightmare for anybody handling a delivery organization with multiple applications within their portfolio and multiple teams working in terms of their transport requests, both workbench and customizing requests. And finally, tools. So if you could imagine a simple release, you might have to hop through multiple different tools like issue management tool, test tracking tool, project management or task management tool, and there'll be release management tools and user collaboration tools and mail collaboration tools, workflow tools. So it is also important about how you can reimagine your SAP releases, both for your current ECC customers and also for the customers who are already on S/4HANA. And this is exactly what the platform tries to address. Now, when you take a business release, and if I have to talk more in terms of dollar value and in terms of return on investments and gross margins, it kind of cuts through three major dimensions. You've got the time, you've got the scope, and you've got the quality. No testing team or quality team will say, I can compromise on the quality of the release, because it is a constant, because in terms of audit and compliance, no testing team will say, I'm compromising on the quality. So it is always the time and the scope which gets inversely proportional to each other. When it comes to shorter releases, it happens in a shorter time frame, and the level of impact, positive impact on the business is much less because of a short-term scope, because of what remains as a constant in terms of the effort involved in testing, people going through what the changes are and what are the related test scripts, who the stakeholders are, and testing it manually or automatically, and giving it back to the issue management team. So this rigorous, tedious process is a constant, and nobody wants to change it. And there is also this concept of test all mentality, where an enterprise could have maybe some 2,000 or 3,000 different test cases, both manual and automatic, in their landscape. And every time there is a release, this test all mentality makes the testing team and burdens the testing team in terms of testing everything, even though a release is just a simple release which affects only a line of business or a module. So There's a time factor attached to it because the business wants it addressed immediately, but there is a testing team or the release team who wants to take time in terms of making sure the quality is fine. And if you talk about a larger scope, then the time frame also becomes bigger, and you've got your competitors moving ahead of you with their own agile platforms. So in order to address this, we brought in the digital minds. And the main focus of digital minds is to cognitively help an enterprise and the system integrator manage their releases, business releases. It can be a weekly release, monthly release, quarterly release, or it can also be an S/4HANA upgrade. What the platform can do is that when we talk about SAP change, we are only referring to transport requests because transport requests are the bloodlines or veins in terms of changes moving from your development to quality and to production. So what the platform can do is that it can look into your transport requests and it can identify and tell you you're about to make a release, and these are the processes and these are the lines of businesses that are going to get affected. These are your applications that might get affected, and these are your end users or stakeholders who might need some retraining or change adoption because they are the direct people who will get impacted because of this change. And more importantly, you've got 2000 test cases, and you don't have to test everything because based on the change impact mining which the platform just performed, you can just test 10 to 20% of it, thereby massively reducing the time and the scope of your testing teams, thereby making your release teams more agile and making your landscape more agile and resilient in terms of these business releases. And this is something which you can use as a use case for maintaining an ECC landscape or an S/4HANA landscape, or handle this as part of your transformation project, because when you talk about conversions or greenfield implementations, you will be dealing with huge transport requests and large transport requests. So in terms of repetitive testing, you can avoid that by using digital minds, which will help you understand and identify what is the impact if a particular transport request is moved to the production system. Now, how exactly the platform works is that uh, we've been talking about how the platform can connect to a landscape, and it is quite the same here as well. So the platform can connect to a landscape via the RFC protocol, standard SAP RFC protocol, and it makes use of standard BAPIs and function modules in terms of connecting to a landscape. So this platform can connect to the landscape and identify what are the releases which are in the buffer in terms of the transport pipeline, and what would be the impact if these transport requests are moved to the production system. And the platform can also connect to a test repository if in case you have one. Even if you don't, we already saw digital labs which can act as a test repository and also as an automated testing platform that will allow you to manage your test cases. But if in case a customer of yours already has a landscape where he manages their own manual or their automatic test cases, it can connect to that particular platform. Predominantly, we work with Worksoft, Tricenters, and UiPath Test Manager. And I'll be showing a demo of a live integration today, where we will be talking about a system which has some transport requests which are about to get released, and what would it look like if the platform goes into the system, performs an analysis on those transport requests, and shows us the results. Now, without further delay, let me swap back to my application so that I can get into the platform, as always. So here I am as part of my application. I hope my browser is visible.
Yeah, Bigness, it is visible.
Thank you so much. All right. Now, as we know, we covered maps, projects, processes, and labs as part of the past 2 days. And today, we'll be talking about digital minds. And this one is about enterprise release impact analysis. So I will open up the enterprise release analysis dashboard. So this is exactly how the dashboard looks like. And as always, the platform will connect to your landscape via the landscape management, where you can create your own SAP GUI landscapes by adding in the system information, just like how you add your own SAP GUI connection. And all you have to do is be part of the enterprise intranet or VPN and have the KTern connector up and running as part of your desktop. So you don't have to install any kind of probe or plugin into your SAP landscape or your SAP system. It is a non-invasive approach where the platform can connect to your landscape via the connector, which is sitting on your desktop. So all that it takes is just some user credentials and a communication user access in terms of connecting to the system and performing this analysis. So no probes, no foreign object installed into an SAP system, just maintaining the audit and the compliance aspects of a customer's landscape. Once that is done, I can go into digital mind and I can spin off a change impact mine. So when I say a change impact mine, I can just name it as anything I would like to have. It can be a weekly release or monthly release or a quarterly release or an S/4HANA upgrade. And I might have to mention what kind of system I'm talking about. In this case, this is an S/4HANA system, which I'm going to connect to. And when you talk about SAP releases, I might have to deal with two systems. One will be the system where the transport requests are present. So I can select the system, typically my development system or my quality system. And I can also mention the system where my actual business processes are happening. It can be my pre-production system or my quality system. So the platform comes with its default sets of bots. These bots are the ones which will execute its analysis and mining models in terms of trying to come up with insights and results that will help a release manager, a project manager, and a delivery manager. It starts with technical impact analysis, more on the technical objects and the custom objects, followed by the processes, which are more in terms of line of business, business applications. Then comes testing. Then you've got the change impact analysis dashboard. And there is also a fit and a gap discussion, which we talk about. So if I have to talk about test fit and test gap, I will go deeper into the results so that I can talk more about what I meant by test fit and test gap. Now, when it comes to the preferences of running a mine, the platform is autonomous. So as long as it is connected to a landscape, it can listen to movement of your transport requests. That will allow the platform to autonomously look into a certain transport object and perform the analysis on the fly so that the results are up and running by the time a transport request has moved from the development system to the quality system. And all the stakeholders, release stakeholders in terms of the developers, in terms of the functional consultants and the project manager and the release owner can have a look at what kind of impact this particular transport request will have if it is moved to the production system. And I can also do a retrospective analysis by looking back into a particular timestamp or a date stamp in terms of what are the transport requests which I would like to analyze. And in this example, I'm just going to choose a transport request within a time frame. And I'm going to say, I would like to specifically choose the set of transport requests which I would like to analyze. And the platform by default has been connected to the UiPath Test Manager. And I also got my UiPath platform open as of right now. This is nothing but a testing ALM platform, which it can be anything else as well. So with this node, I'll be able to create a mine. And I've also got, once a mine is created, the platform will connect to the mine and it will start profiling the list of transport objects available. As part of the second step, this is exactly how it looks like. I can do it live, but it might probably take some 5 to 10 minutes in terms of the network and the bandwidth. So I've prepared the steps so that it is much easier for me to go through as a flow. So this is the second step. So as soon as a mine is created, because I selected, I would like to choose the transport requests manually, the platform will present me the transport requests which are available for the timestamp or the date stamp I have selected. So these are the different transport requests available as part of the landscape which I connected to. And these transport objects will have the tasks underneath those transport requests. I can select the transport request which I would like to analyze, and I can click on Run Bot. Once a bot starts running, it might probably take some few minutes to 1 hour, depending upon the size of the transport. It is always the size and the bandwidth that plays a role in terms of the time taken. And this is exactly how the results will be presented. Now, let me launch a pre-populated result. So this one is a huge transport request. I think it was 2 major huge transport requests that was analyzed as part of this digital mine. So out of the 21 transport requests which the platform suggested, I picked 2 transport requests, and those 2 are like heavy transport requests, 251 objects captured. So clicking on this particular transport request will reveal me all the changes which are captured. These are technical objects which only SAP can understand. But what the platform and what we have built as part of the data mining model is that we have built a capability to look into those transport requests and provide you a change impact analysis dashboard. And this is exactly how the dashboard looks like. The platform will say, you've got almost 300 business applications running as part of your production system. And the transport request which was analyzed will impact 54 of your business processes. And the platform has also connected to your landscape, and it was able to identify 12 test cases, out of which 3 of them are a fit, which means out of those 12 test cases, you don't have to test all the 12. You might have to test only 3 test cases. Imagine 1,000 or 2,000 test case repository. And with this kind of intelligence, the testing is made more seamless, and the effort in terms of testing is also drastically reduced. And the platform can also suggest about test cases which are not present in the landscape in the portfolio, but it is required as part of this release. Maybe you do not have a testing for your material master creation, and one of the transport requests is going to affect your material master creation, and the platform will suggest you don't have a test case related to material master creation, you please create one, and those appears as gap. As we could see here, I told about 54 business processes getting affected, and those 54 can cut across different modules. So as we could see here, we can scroll through and see the modules or the line of business that are getting affected. And it looks like it is finance, which is massively affected. And I can hover on that, which will reveal me the level of impact, if it is a high impact or a low impact in terms of the transactions which are getting affected. And I also get to notice what are the top business processes and the top business stakeholders who are going to get affected if these transport requests are moved to the production system. So I'm able to foresee what will get affected even before they are released to my production system. And there are more insights and analytics which the platform provides that helps release managers appreciate and take decisions, because we've been having huge customers dealing with huge releases, use the platform and appreciate the value it brings to the table in terms of what you're about to see right now. And here's the process view. So the process view can be for standard as well as customized. So as part of standard, we've got the lines of businesses, and against each lines of businesses, the platform will reveal me what are the applications or programs which are going to get affected. And we spoke about materiality often. So it is value, volume, and velocity score. Value is about the number of documents created by executing a transaction. Volume is about how many users are authorized to use a transaction. And velocity is about how many times a transaction is executed in a given period of time. So higher the materiality score out of 10, the more critical your business process is. And the platform, based on what it saw as part of the transport request, it will allow a user to filter the transport requests or transactions which are critically getting affected, or the transactions which are getting affected. And it will also reveal us the materiality score of those transport requests. And it tells me what is getting affected and by what. So we've got display sale order and create sale order getting affected because of some change in the transport request. It can be a customizing change or a workbench change. So it looks like it is a customizing request which is affecting these transactions, and it is critically getting affected. And these are the process stakeholders who are being suggested in order to be considered as part of this release, so that they can be consulted in terms of anything, in terms of end user testing or user acceptance testing or GoNoGo decisions before the go live happens. And if I do look for the traceability, I can always hover, and it will reveal me what are the different activities or objects which are impacting this particular transaction or a process, and which particular transport does it belong to. So you have the traceability available here that will reveal you what exact change in a particular transport request is going to affect your business process or your transaction or the users. So I've got the list. With this list, I can, as you always know, you can spin off or create a task or create a meeting and have a discussion about how critical this particular business release is because of the size of the transport request and the level of impact it has got with multiple transactions. And a no-go sign-offs can also be created. Now, here's the best part. This one is about the testing impact. So as part of testing, we're able to see we've got the fits view and the gaps view. And I've got my UiPath Test Manager. Here's where I maintain all my test cases. And I've got a set of test cases available as part of my landscape, as part of my portfolio, as my testing portfolio, multiple test cases. The platform will look into the transports, and it will connect to UiPath, and it will reveal me out of all the test cases you have in your testing platform, you might have to test only these three because these three are the only test cases which has to be tested. And I can simply select these test cases and create a test execution cycle. So I can create a test execution cycle as part of a release, more like testing, automated testing. Somebody does it manually or it is automated. So only these three test cases will be the scope for this entire release. So I can execute the bot. And as soon as I execute it, I've got a test set which gets created automatically. A few seconds ago, I just created it automatically. So the platform is natively connected to UiPath. So the test cases in scope are these three test cases, which are available as part of the KTern platform as well. Now, the gap view is more interesting. What the gap view suggests is you have a test case, you have a bunch of test cases as part of your portfolio, but as part of this release and the transactions which are getting affected, even if you test everything, you will still miss out on testing these transactions and programs. So these are suggested as gaps so that the testing COE team or the testing team can work and create a test script or an automated script in terms of testing these transactions as well. In that case, I can create a test requirement. This will immediately spin off a set of requirements, just like a user story requirement, and these get created again, and these will have the transactions or applications that needs a testing. So this is what the platform offers in terms of connecting to a landscape, looking into a specific bunch of transport requests, performing change impact analysis, understanding what kind of processes they will impact, and also the test cases which has to be considered as part of the scope, and the stakeholders who need to be considered. And finally, as obvious, the custom objects are also something which the platform recommends in terms of the objects, both standard and custom, which will get impacted, because it is always the custom objects which will play a huge role in terms of creating disruptions because of any changes or releases that move from your development to quality and to production system. While this is about the automation of connecting and providing results and insights and giving a sense of control and satisfaction over what will happen if a release is made, this can always be spinned off to your sign-offs, which we saw yesterday, where we created our own sets of sign-offs. You can also create your own sign-off, like of any template or any matrix you want. So this is a sign-off which I just created, more in terms of go-no-go decision for a particular release. So a go-no-go decision would mean all the technical spec documents are submitted, functional spec is submitted, regression testing is done, end user enablement has happened, and pre-production checklists are covered. So I know for a fact that this release will need the process stakeholders who were recommended as part of the digital maps result to be there as part of my go-no-go decisions. That way, I can control my release, and I can have a tightened business collaboration between my IT team, my application management team, the customer's IT team, and the customer's business team. So as a system integrator, I have complete control and authority over these business releases. So there are no more rollbacks, and it is only rollouts because of templatizing whatever is available as part of a release. So it's more like you templatize a certain release and a bunch of transport. And if it is more a rollout where you replicate the same for multiple company codes, you can just repeat the process by commoditizing your entire execution and your task list and your workflows. So this just makes your delivery excellence much smoother and have a controlled release over a period of time. Now, with that note, I'll just swap back to my presentation so that I can conclude on what more and what are the benefits which which a partner has got when it comes to using digital minds in terms of their landscape. So it is similarly, you have your planning, your development, your testing, followed by your release, with an intervention from the platform to look into those releases and check and find changes that will affect or disrupt or potentially disrupt your processes and your people. So the people can be taken in terms of uh, having a transparency and a control over the user adoption and the overall change management and the organization change management. You're not dealing with multiple tools. You're only dealing with KTern, which will take care of your task management, your workflow management, your communications, your release management, your test management, and your issue management as well, because we saw them as part of day two. And in terms of process, you're able to streamline and commoditize your entire release process as a set of execution activities, along with the deliverables, along with the sign-off matrix, thereby making it much easier for your application management team to just clone a process and replicate it for multiple different customers and organizations too. Now, what are the benefits of using digital minds? So, like I mentioned, the organization change management is a wide spoken topic as part of S4HANA transformations too. So when you deal with S4HANA, you're dealing with changes. So with the transport requests created during these transformation journeys or transformation projects, the platform can look into those transport requests and identify the stakeholders needed for change management and user adoption, thereby making the transformation adoption much easier. And you're able to forecast and foresee what kind of impact a release is about to happen. Maybe a small 2 or 3 transport requests, or a huge half-early release having 300 to 400 transport requests, be it any kind of site. So you're able to forecast and control what kind of release you're about to witness and what would be the impact of those releases. And test optimization. We are dealing with 2,000 to 3,000 test cases, and this test all mentality can be completely erased by identifying the scope, the exact scope of testing, thereby minimizing the manual effort by even 50%, which we have witnessed with one of our customers. And for S4HANA projects, obviously, you can use it for any kind of project, and the platform adapts itself in terms of any kind of use case which you want to use. And the benefits, you're able to orchestrate it digitally. You're able to involve your business and identify the direct impacted people. And you can always look up into a particular release or a set of transport and have analytics. And you can definitely spin up multiple go-no-go decision matrices. And you will be able to witness and control and digitize your change management completely in terms of tasks, issues, events, files, collaborations, everything. And you always leave a trace of what was tested, who are the stakeholders involved, what are the transport requests considered as part of a release, and have a complete audit trail. And you're reducing massively in terms of testing scope and in terms of management scope. And you can always aim to have an on-time delivery and an on-cost delivery because you are cutting down a huge effort in terms of testing. Now, with that note, I'll probably open up the questions for the portal in terms of questions that we've got as part of this particular session.
Yeah, Bigness, maybe if I can read out the question to you. We've got one in the chat box. So the question is, can we invite customer users for sign off, or is it only for delivery?
The sign off is basically built in order to support both the customers. So the major idea of using KTern Sign Off is to invite your customer team and your business team as well, so that you can build your own customizable matrix, which will allow you to take level-wise execution. Basically, it starts with your delivery consultants or your project managers signing off, and then it goes to your customer's IT team or IT SME. And once they approve, you will have your customers, end users or business users approving it. And finally, the process owner, a customer's application or ERP manager approving it. Thereby, you have a complete trail of the level of approvals, and it can be of any complexity. So if I have to create a sign off, so I can create it for multiple levels. Like I can have like level 1, level 2, and it can go up until level 10. And I can also have multiple people into each of these levels. So these means multiple stakeholders as part of single level 2. So it actually provides you a complete control with your delivery organization and a sense of satisfaction that there won't be a red flag raised or there won't be a concern raised once the transport is moved to the production, because it is a typical scenario with the business where uh, they claim to say something went wrong. So with them being part of these workflows and approvals, with them signing it off during the process, you can definitely cut down on those conversations and focus on productivity and delivery excellence and the experience for the customer too. That is the main motive here. So it is it is of course designed to invite your customers.
Yeah, thanks for that answer, Bigness. I hope that answered your question. So there's another question. Can we use it for SAP Business?
I'm sorry, I lost you there for a minute. What was the question?
Can we use it for SAP Business Suite?
Oh, yes, of course. Anything with regard to the SAP ERP suite or NetWeaver suite, we should be able to use. I was just confused if it was Business One. If it is Business One, we do not offer this offering for Business One. So by
No, it
Business,
was Business Suite, yes.
okay, by Business Suite, I believe you mentioned anything which is running on NetWeaver stack or ECC, CRM, SRM, S/4HANA, all of these fall under NetWeaver stack. So since it was a broader term, so I'm just trying to make it even more granular. So anything which runs, any application which runs on SAP's NetWeaver stack, the platform will be able to connect and provide you these results.
Okay. And another question. So how long does it take for the setup? And do we have to record and maintain T-bomb like SAP Solman BPCA?
All right. So if I have to answer how long it takes for the setup, it is just as long it took for me to execute this entire flow. I just did whatever a customer will also do, and it is how long it takes. So you just go in there, select a system, wait for the transport request, and then perform the analysis. Depending upon the size of the transports you're dealing with, I dealt with like a 260 object transport request. So those transport requests might take some time. It took me around 60 minutes to have the analysis done. But you don't have to maintain any kind of T-bomb or recording or as part of BPCA, which has to happen. And you don't have to deal with any kind of maintenance issues or Solman consultant issues or the infrastructure uses the issues that comes along with it. It is seamless. It is non-invasive. There's no prerequisite in terms of maintenance of any kind of T-bomb, static T-bomb or dynamic T-bomb. We're not getting into that concept. So it is just as simple as connecting to the system, looking into the transports, providing you with insights and analytics on what are the processes and anything which is needed for a release manager or a delivery manager to make sure the releases are happening smoothly and in a controlled fashion.